Good evening, everyone. We're trying this one more time. We just got booted out of here. I'm Jessica Parks from the She Interviews. Welcome back. I'm so excited to be live with my good friend Elizabeth Nader and our head mindset coach. Hi, Elizabeth. How are you tonight?
I'm great, Jessica. It seems like Facebook wants to play games with us, but we're back, we're on, so we're going to plow through this. So hopefully everyone in the Facebook world can see us. But anyway, thank you for inviting me. Happy to be here.
Absolutely. You were the gal for the job because we had a conversation that we needed to have this week. So just so you guys know, we have a feature interview every single week. And whatever happens in that interview, whatever piece of inspiration that we get from it, we kind of have a running theme throughout the week, and we provide resources that are attached to that theme. So the interview that we're going to be running tomorrow with Nicole Joao, a fabulous young lady, I titled that Trailblazing and Forward Thinking because that's exactly what she is. And the reason that was so impressive to me is because I really don't see us in general having forward thinking, especially in finance, right? Because that's where I'm at. And I see most people waiting until it's kind of too late to properly prepare for retirement. And we kind of do this in other parts of our life as well. And this is really a mindset. So who else better to talk to about this than Elizabeth? So Elizabeth's going to help us to answer the question, first of all, why forward thinking is key to experiencing a successful future. So let's start there. And then we're going to talk about why people have a challenge with this. But Elizabeth, tell us, why do we need to do this to have a successful future?
Oh, well, here's the deal, Jessica. I mean, as a mindset coach, I see everything through that lens, right? I am really focused daily for myself and all the people I work with that what we think about, what we say, our intentions become our reality. So when you said to me, well, what's up with forward thinking? Why is that? Like, I'm so excited when I see people who are forward thinkers. Why is it so important? And ironically, you just said, well, it makes sense financially where people don't do it, right? Or people do it. It's the most obvious place to talk about forward thinking, right? Because I think no matter whether or not you're disciplined in the world of finances, you intuitively understand that if you don't plan, then you're not going to have a nest egg. If you don't put things away, I mean, regardless of whether you're doing it or not, on every level, people will say, yeah, of course, I understand that, right? I've got to start to save, or I need the time to be able to do that. But we don't apply that in other areas of our life. So I think when we see someone who's strong in that area, we see the courage of that. And we're like, wow, what's that all about? Now, the way I see forward thinking in terms of the success and the mindset and the reason why it affects your life is that I see it as being intentional. And that is a huge word to me because I believe that what we think about creates our reality. And I believe that everything starts with thoughts. Now, why is that associated with being a forward thinker? Because obviously I'm thinking about the future, right? I'm thinking about where I want to be in 5 or 10 years. This is not setting these goals necessarily and just doing a vision board and all those things that we do. That's fine, but it's being intentional about my choices every day. I always say that, success is just a choice. It's a series of choices, actually. Right. It's little things that we do every single day, choices that we make every single day. Well, what are those choices? Well, they're meaningless if they're not rooted in some future thinking. They're meaningless if they don't have intention and vision behind them. So let's talk about a few examples of that. As a parent, okay, I have 4 children. I want to be an intentional parent. You have 3 children. When you think about those young men in their 20s, can you give me a vision right now of what you want them to be like?
Yes. And it's so funny that you say that because I actually just had something happen with my oldest son tonight, who's only 6. So my kids are really little. So, he was just having a hard time. And I honestly could not really figure out why he was having such a hard time. He was screaming, just being crazy town. And if I was just looking at his behavior, it's like I could just go at him and be like, your behavior just sucks, But I looked at him like I could see that he's feeling pain. Right. And so I chose to kind of ignore his behavior and more be like, what is going on with you? Like maybe you just need to be hugged, whatever. And as I'm doing this, I'm thinking about, helping my kid and what he needs in the moment. But really, the reason I care so much about helping him in the moment is because I'm worried about how that's going to shape him later.
Yeah.
Right? Like how he's going to eventually have a picture of what love is, right? Because it's going to be the accumulation of all these little encounters with mom and dad and friends and whatever, and how they've made us feel. So even though it was just that, 10, 15 minutes that I sat with him, I want to make sure that these little things are ingrained and help to shape him for the future. So I think it's so funny that you brought up kids, because that's exactly where it was.
Right. And it's such a good example for anyone that understands it, have children, because, we do get caught up. Listen, let's admit to each other in all areas of life, especially parenthood, we get caught up in the day-to-day, the small things, the stresses. And I get that. And I'm not suggesting that we're all floating on a cloud thinking about the future and that nothing else consumes us. Sure. But we have to be intentional and stop ourselves and say, what I'm doing right now, this small decision I'm making, the small things that I'm doing, what does that look like for my future? And we do it with finances. If you go to a financial planner, if you go talk to you and you say, okay, Elizabeth, what kind of nest egg do you need in 20 years? You're going to tell me you need to be intentional and do the following things.
Right.
But why aren't we applying that in other areas of our life? Why is our thinking not what's leading us into what we're going to experience? I say where you are today is what you thought about yesterday, what you said yesterday.
I
okay?
love that.
Yeah. So there's intentionality behind it. I think that's a big word associated with it. And I think when you see someone who, some people say, well, they're so, they plan. They're all focused on their future. And I think someone like that is attractive to people. People don't understand it always, but it's because they realize that yes, they have to be in the present, and do what they have to do, but it all has impact on where they're going to be in 10 years. We don't just wake up and find ourselves somewhere. Success is not that big breakthrough moment. Those moments happen, but guess what brought on those moments? Guess what brought on the suddenlies that, yes, people have those stories, but it's the consistent commitment. And another good analogy is the sports world. Always a great analogy, because the performance in sports, you can't hide that, right? The scoreboard shows you. You can't pretend to be a strong mindset person, because guess what? You're either winning or losing or whatever. People see the results of what you're doing for self-improvement. Now, that individual who wins that gold medal, who wins that race, that breakthrough moment, very well what that is, right? You run marathons, you run races. It's small increment changes that are future based. So you're saying, I want to see myself here in a year, in 5 years, in 10 years. So now my choices because of that are intentional, and in every area of my life.
Every single area.
Yeah.
So a lot of times when I talk to people about their finances, I'm always using analogies about like weight loss, for example, right?
Yeah.
Going on a diet, and you're going on like a special diet, it's only how sustainable is that?
Right.
It's coming up with the habits that you do every single day that are going to serve you in the moment, but compounded out are going to really serve you for your future.
Yeah. Right? And I think one of the challenges, and someone listening to this right now may say, yeah, that's all great, but what if I don't know what I want my future to be? I mean, we're making an assumption that people have a vision. When someone who's going into the Olympics, Olympic swimmer, is going to go participate in that competition, that individual knows what they want, right? They want to win. And so they visualize, they train their brain, they have the thoughts, they run through the race, they future load. That's what they're doing. So when they get in the moment, their body already knows what to do, right? Because the brain doesn't know the difference between what we're visualizing and the reality. And we know that works. But I can say all that, but if you're sitting there listening to this saying, I don't know what my purpose is, I don't know what kind of future I want, I think it's an indication that that's the work you need to do now, is to start to develop, well, what do I want in my life? Because I've met enough people to know, and the reason I do what I do is because people struggle with that. So it's one thing to say to them, future thinking equates success. Be a future thinker. Okay, let's do that. So many people don't know what they want. They don't know what they want to see materialize in 10 years.
That's such a great point. So what can we tell people that are listening right now if they're like, I don't know what I want? I know I want to be happy, right? Everyone knows they want happiness, peace, right? Yeah. Like kind of conceptual things, but to pinpoint what exactly that looks like. What are some steps that our viewers can take to start to hash that out for themselves?
Well, first of all, let's start with the generalizations. I think that's okay, depending on where you are. If you've never really sat and thought about the future for whatever reason, and listen, some people have been so wounded in their life by dreams that haven't come to pass that they tend to back away from future thinking. This is a reality because it can cause them pain because they feel like they've been let down, right?
Yeah.
They feel as though, well, I did that planning and I had that dream and it didn't happen for me. So I'm going to keep myself safe and I'm not going to go there because if you go there, you might get hurt again. So there's some healing there that needs to happen for some people that have felt let down by their dreams. And that's more complicated, right? And that's individual healing. But I think we start with, what do you want life to look like? It's okay to start with, like, I want to be healthy. You know, I want to be financially secure. I want to be in a loving relationship. You know, those kind of things. If you're not future thinking at all, you start there. Yeah. And then where you add to that is specific to you. You were created on purpose for a purpose. There is not one person on this earth that wasn't meant to be here. Everybody's unique. Everybody's different. Everybody, if they choose to, can find their purpose. And that's ultimately, I think, everybody's heart cry. Why me? Why am I here? So if I don't know that, it's very hard for me to design a future. Yeah. And you can be 50 years old and still not know that. You can be, going to college and wondering that, and that's your time to explore and all of that. But at different stages of life, I think people tend to go through life without future planning, without a sense of purpose. And that ultimately strips away the potential for them to wake up in that world that they wanted. So I would tell people to start with the basics if you don't have them yet, right? Get the healing you need if you've been let down, disappointed, your dreams have felt delayed. Look at that correctly, right? Forgive people maybe that have been part of that disappointment. Forgive yourself for whatever reason. Maybe you made bad decisions, whatever that looks like for you. And it's never too late. And then now begin to look at yourself and say, what do I love? What am I drawn to? What do people come to me and ask me for all the time? What is it that people see in me, people that love me, people that are honest with me? What do they see in me that maybe I don't see in myself? Yeah. What are the books that I'm reading all the time? What am I drawn to? If we have to start there, you start there. It's a journey of exploring why you uniquely are the way you are.
It almost sounds like you're also saying, like, think about what you think about.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, well, that's, have you heard me say that ever? I know you have. Maybe just once or twice.
Yeah.
No, that's a big deal to me. Think about what you're thinking about. I want people to wake up. I really do. And I don't mean that in an insulting way. No. I mean that in, like, I want you to live, like, I want you to live that full life. It's never going to be perfect. And it's going to be full of success and failure and all that goes in it. But when you embrace it and you are intentional and you think about what you're thinking about, you enjoy that life, you enjoy that roller coaster, and you begin to see the breakthroughs, and you're surrounded by the people you want to be surrounded by. These are all choices. If I say to you, Jessica, in 10 years, what kind of friends do you want to have? This is a valid question, right?
Like, yeah, and you know what? I really love the fact that you said in 10 years, because as you're saying this, right, like step one, I'm actually thinking about, this is not something that happens overnight, or you don't just take a month to think about it, right? This can actually be years that this process goes on.
Yeah.
And because for me, like, I'm thinking about my own journey, it's been years, right? And so many times I've thought that I was like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. This is what I think I'm supposed to be doing. And then I start doing it and I'm like, something doesn't feel right. Like, I kind of want to run away. Like, I don't want to quit because I don't want to be a quitter. But like, there's something that doesn't feel right in my own skin. And then I had to course correct. And then each time I course corrected, I was getting a little bit closer to finding my purpose, to feeling like my actual self. And it's like, the closer you get, the more exciting it gets. And it's really an amazing journey. But the beginning can be brutal. Like, I'm just going to tell you, like, at least for me, the beginning was brutal, especially if you're coming from a place where you've had dreams that, were crushed, or you were living a life where all these expectations were not set by what you want, but by what other people say that you want. When so many people are telling you what you should want, you get lost.
You do get lost.
So lost in that stuff.
Yes, and you know what? It's you have to break out of it. And everyone has their own story. Some people break out of it early, some people, it takes decades for them. I just want everyone to know it's never too late to break out of that. A lot of times we understand other people better than we understand ourselves. But we have to be willing to go on that journey and course correct, like you said. The person I am today is not the person I was 10 years ago. My business today is not what it was, back then. Here's a little exercise I do with my clients, and I have this in my book, and I think it's really
Fabulous
helpful.
book, by the way, everyone. You need to go get it. Move your head out of the way for a second, Elizabeth. Little commercial, everybody. Move your head. There you go. Master Mindset, the Master's Way. Everyone get that. It's on Amazon. Okay, what were you going to say?
Yes, it will come to you in a smaller package. Anyway, so, but one of the exercises that I love, and I did this once. I heard a coach once who was having people write their obituary. Like, what do you want people to, what's your legacy? I was like, oh, no, I don't want to write my obituary. So I thought, what do I really want people to do? And how do we combine goal setting with purpose and really an intention of reflecting who we think we are and who we are right now, right? And then allow course correction. So I have people write an introduction of themselves.
Yes.
So I want you to think about the last time that you went to a Zoom conference or a speech or whatever, with the individual who was introduced by the MC. When that introduction was made, you got a little taste of what they've accomplished. You got a little taste of sort of their background, but it was, and then what they're going to talk to you about. And it was all a confirmation of why they should be there and why you should listen to them, right? Introductions are not random. They're not just reading a CV. There's a purpose behind a well-done introduction. Right. And then that individual takes the stage. So I want you to think about yourself 10 years from now, and you're being introduced somewhere that you have a place to be. So you're an expert of whatever. You're being introduced for a reason. What does that introduction read like? Because when you write that, and for some people, it's hard and they have to keep trying because they tend to make themselves smaller than they are, right? But when you really sit down and write that, you start to see the expansive possibility, right? When you write down, this is who I am, this is what I've done, and this is what my purpose is, this is where my heart is, and you think about that from a standpoint of introduction, it's amazing. And what's great about it is you can use that not only to say, those are really my goals, right? In a lot of ways of things I want to accomplish, but also the person I want to become. But you allows for course correction. So I say, redo it every year, take a look at it, change it up. Imagine, and now we're visualizing ourselves being successful. We're in front of those people we're meant to influence. Because by the way, purpose is, if I have to define it, it's hard to define for people, but the bottom line definition of purpose is changing at least one person's life for the better with your gifts and your talents. So if you're in front of these people, they're people you're meant to influence. They're people that you have been given. You've been put on this earth to make a mark on their life in some way. So Jessica, you have those people. If you shrink from your purpose, those people never get affected by you. Someone else may step in, but they'll never be you. So those people you're being introduced to need you. Now start visualizing that. Start visualizing that you're serving them. What are you serving them with? What have you done? I think it's a great tool. I use it myself as really a way to pull myself forward and say, have I accomplished what I've wanted to do? And am I visualizing these people that I'm helping? It's all part of it.
It's so funny. Everything you're talking about, I feel like I have a story for, like a recent story too. So Jenny, I don't know if you're listening, and I hope you don't mind me telling this story, but last night, Jenny, my partner in the She interviews, we were having a conversation. I think it was last night, maybe the night before, who knows? But anyways, recently we're having a conversation about what's going to happen. She's a teacher, what's going to happen with COVID and all that stuff, and her job and everything like that. And just talking about her higher ups and the management, right? And just kind of like the friction. And, she's like, you asked me to write a little blurb about myself, like about my resume, like all my accomplishments. And I did that for you. I needed it for something. And she's like, I kind of forget about these things. And part of the reason she said she kind of forgets about these things is because the way she's treated by her superiors, right? So I think, the fact that I made her write them down, she kind of got a glimpse of like, yeah, this is what I look like on paper. And this is what I look like in real life too. And I'm letting other people rob me of that.
So, yeah, that is such a good point. One thing comes to mind, Jessica, is that we don't live in the past, right? We don't want to live in the rearview mirror, but there is one thing about the past that's powerful, and that's remembering when we've overcome, remembering when we've succeeded, remembering those things like she did. She'd forgotten that, because when you're in the fight and in the moment, you think like, oh, I can't. But if you use the past simply for the purpose of saying, do you remember you made it through this before? Do you remember you actually achieved this, this, and that? Because we're trained not to stay there, right? We don't want to be egotistical. That's not the point. The point is to tell us we can do this again, and we can even do bigger and better things. And she needed that reinforcement because she's fighting a fight now, and she's, in the muck and mire of it. And she forgets who she is.
Right.
It's a remembrance of who you are.
Yeah. So Jenny, if you're listening, this is just another reminder how awesome you are.
There you go, Jenny. Woo, Jenny. Yeah, go get him, Jenny.
This is fantastic. You've given us some amazing tools. First of all, the awareness of the importance of forward thinking in our life, right? To have a balance, like still be living in the moment, but just recognize how the little things that we're doing on a daily basis, compounded out, is going to make us arrive somewhere for our future. So just to be mindful of the connection of the two, right? You've also given us some tools to, where to start with this process if we're not sure where we want to go to, right? Visualization, writing these things down. And it could be an overnight process, probably not, but it's probably going to be quite a journey. So not to get impatient with it. Also writing that introductory speech. Is there anything else that we should tell our viewers about forward thinking tonight, Elizabeth?
Yeah. Well, I guess one last thing is that a little marketing speak here, right? I can't help but pull in my business background.
Yeah.
Everybody is a brand. You are a brand. You are your brand. And I don't care who you work for, if you own your own business, if you're a stay-at-home mom, if you're a college student, if you work for a big corporation, you are a brand. So study brands. Understand what a good brand does. What does a good brand do?
100%. I love that.
A good brand is consistent. A good brand knows its attributes. A good brand knows that it needs to deliver the same every time. People get to know a brand by all of those qualities and characteristics. You are a brand, and you deserve to be a brand, and no one can be a brand like you. And it's okay to think about yourself that way. It's not an egotistical move. It's not a move that says, well, I think I'm all this. No, you are all that. You need to figure out how to package it, because when you live in your brand and you walk in your brand, guess what? You'll know when to say yes and when to say no in life. Because then it either fits your brand or it doesn't. You'll know what direction to take. You'll know when something isn't right, and you'll course correct, right? And you will hold yourself to a standard that reflects who you are. Do the work, figure out what your brand is, and that will be ultimately what guides you to make the choices that, influence the future that you experience.
I love that so much. Every time, Elizabeth, every time. Okay.
Every time.
Somebody clean up my desk right now, because my brain's just like all over the place.
Oh, come on. It's fun.
No, it's wonderful. Thank you so much for laying this all out for us tonight, and for always lending you're so generous with your time with us at the She Interviews. Tell people how they can follow you, get in touch with you. Talk to everyone really quickly about the summit that you're in the middle of, because it's amazing. So everyone needs to get to that as well.
Thank you. Thank you. Just a few quick things. I'm just finishing up a Flatten Your Fear Summit, which is interviews with 22 amazing thought leaders about getting past your fears. It's good. Using your fears to drive you. Really exciting, amazing interviews. I love people. I love their unique stories. Everybody has something to give, right? And so this is a chance for these people to give back. And I'm telling you, you will be changed. You can still sign up for it at flattenyourfear.com. At the end, which will be Monday, you'll get a link to all 22 interviews. You'll have a little bit of time to watch them. And I'm rolling them right into a virtual retreat, which I'll be advertising in October. It will be happening in October, a mindset reset. But if you want to make sure you find out about that, join my private Facebook group, which is called Master Your Mindset Academy. Just ask to join. And in there, I serve you with little short videos and encouragement, but that's where you find out about a lot of the opportunities to get involved. And you know what? Listen, we all need this stuff. We all need this whole mindset thing. We do this till the day we die, but I promise you, we can overcome things. New things come in, we get the tools, we get the truth, we can be victorious, and it makes all the difference in your life. So don't miss out. Make sure you work on this, because everything flows from there.
I love it. Thank you so much, Elizabeth. Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. We will see you next time on the She Interviews.
Bye, guys.